7 o'clock, we'll open the public meeting. Public input. Public input shall be limited to statements from the public relating to any issues with the jurisdiction of the Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals that are not currently the subject of a pending public hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Public comment on any pending public hearing shall only be heard during such public hearings. Is there any public input this evening? Seeing none, we have an administrative review. 73 Dalton Road, William Harvey III is requesting a minor modification to a previously approved comprehensive permit to waive bylaw Article 7, Section 195-31, thereby allowing a sign on the dwelling.
I'm going to excuse myself on that.
Charlie's going to recuse himself. So just to let you know, we're going to need a unanimous decision tonight to approve.
That's fine. Mr. Chairman, my name is William Harvey. I sent in a letter into the Zoning Board of Appeals dated November 11th, which you have a copy of, which is generally speaks about the request that I'm making today. In addition, for demonstration, I also submitted photographs of 75 North Road, which will be similar to the sign, in addition to various other signs that exist in the town that have been approved, which are larger in size. So this is just a request for a much smaller sign than other ones that have been approved. So the maximum square footage I'd be looking for would be 18 square feet, but it's more probable, 18 square feet, but it'll be more probable that it'll be less than that, more likely 16 square feet. The other, the sign that's at 75 North Road is 18 square feet, and then there's other ones in town that range from the average of 32 square feet, 28 square feet, and 16 square feet. The sign will not be illuminated at all. It'll be made out of wood. And if you have any questions, you can just ask.
What is the sign going to say?
It's going to be, the sign's going to be the name of the development, excuse me, the 40B.
I guess I'm just not familiar with the name.
Well, the name is the Edward B., I believe it's the Edward B. Bell
Yeah,
Estates.
Edward B. Bell?
I think that
Is
was the
what it
approval. But seeking just for the square footage.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious.
Yep, thank you.
I didn't see it in the application, and I do remember that being how it was referred to. Are there any questions from the board at this time? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second.
Second, by Jamie. I heard it clearly. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.
I was expecting Rod here this evening, so I don't know if he's just running late.
7 o'clock, I don't know. You know, if he'd said he was coming, I guess I'd be more willing to hang on a minute or two, but 7 o'clock. Someone feel like making a motion? As I cannot.
My agenda just disappeared. I will make a motion to approve the administrative review for a minor modification for application for 73 Dalton Road to approve, to add a sign.
Of 18 square feet or less.
Yeah.
Yes, in accordance with the application submitted.
Were there any letters? No, in administrative. We don't get any letters.
No.
Second, Steve, all in favor? Opposed? Does not pass.
Is the
twice, you won't be too happy about this again.
Our next public hearing is 6 Monmouth Street. Alexander and Catherine Melville requesting a special permit under Section 195-9B conformity for a 20% reduction in the side setback requirement of 40 feet and other relief deemed necessary to build a 4-foot by 5-foot covered entryway landing to a residential addition. Oh, you know what? I should get Charlie.
Yes.
That was quick, huh?
Okay.
All right, I'm going to start over. It's a public hearing for 6 Monmouth Street. Alexander and Catherine Melville requesting a special permit under Section 195-9B conformity for a 20% reduction in the side setback requirement of 40 feet and other relief deemed necessary to build a 4x5 covered entryway landing to a residential addition, which is by right within the allowable setbacks of the property and has already received a building permit. This property is located in the IA district.
How is it within the allowable setbacks, but they're asking for a reduction to the setback? How do those things go together?
The addition itself, the 16 by 24, is by right, but
Oh,
the
okay.
proposed entry landing
Right.
is outside of that.
Okay,
So they're only asking for relief for the proposed entry landing.
Okay.
Those are stairs on either side with a little, a covered porch, or is it just open? Oh,
Applicants
please
here.
approach, yeah.
Hi there, Alex Melville. So this is the plot plan.
Just get your name and address for the record.
Alex Melville, 6 Monmouth Street.
Thank you.
So I believe your question was more information about the covered landing. Yeah, so the stairs would not be covered by the roof, but the 4x5 area would be.
Okay.
Are there any questions of the applicant?
So they're asking, they need a permit to cover,
Special permit, yeah.
So this is,
So the stairs and the walkway are, they need a special permit.
for this 4 feet right here.
That portion right there is what we're approving. It's a special permit because it's 20%.
Right.
And it does have a roof over the small landing, but not a roof over the stairs.
That little square.
Is the
Gotcha.
required setback 40 feet?
yeah, so this is a residential property in a IA zoned area. So the residential setback is typically 25 feet, I guess, around Chelmsford. And I know there's been discussions in the planning board to move Monmouth Street to residential zoning, but that hasn't happened yet. So we are trying to build this while it's still under the industrial zoning.
Yeah, I guess my question is, if it's meant to be, if the setbacks are supposed to be 40, the stairs are at 35.6, and they are 4 feet wide, if they touch the building, isn't the building at 39.6, not 40?
Are we giving relief for that also, though? That's what I'm figuring.
Are the stairs new?
The stairs are new. So it's,
The red area is all
the
new.
setback is this northern part.
Yeah, but you need it for the stairs and the,
Can I clarify? So the perimeter on red is, it was a granted, a recently granted permit by right. He doesn't have those stairs there on the side present currently. Those stairs are not there. So he's proposing those stairs because otherwise he wouldn't have either he put them on the back, but if he wants to use the stairs on the side like he's proposing, then he would need a reduction of 20% just for the stairs.
yeah, I guess I'm asking, what's the dimension to the building?
It's 40, it's
Fo-
less than
it's
40
40
feet is what you're
40
suggesting. But it's already there because there's a granite foundation, so that is by right. We're not approving that. We're just
Okay.
approving the 4x5 landing and the stairs. That the granite foundation exists allows him by right to put up the building. Am I getting that correctly?
So he added the perimeter on red is added. It's a new structure within the 40 feet setback. The stairs did not, in order for him to have those stairs there, he would need to have the 20% reduction because otherwise he wouldn't be able to put them there.
Right.
Okay, I'm just stuck on the math, I guess, that it doesn't look like it adds up, but,
I get you.
okay,
You're coming up with 3963.
to the building.
But the building is existing.
No, I'm sorry, let me
This is being
clarify.
built.
The foundation is existing.
16 by 24 goes up to 40 feet.
Okay.
And actually, in the as-built plot plan with the foundation, which I have a copy of here, and it's not there since we just got that done, since
So
the foundation was put
you have a
in.
correction from Mr. White's stamp plan at 40 feet.
Yes,
Okay,
may I
okay. You
provide it
can,
to
you
you?
can share that if you would, that
That'd
would
be
be great.
So the
That
new
makes more
foundation
sense.
was just put in,
Okay.
was passed on that inspection.
Yeah, 40 by 40 point.
And so with the work actually completed, that, the new plot plan is in your hands now, and it shows that the foundation extends to 40.6 feet, I believe.
40.46.
Thank you,
Yeah.
from the edge. So then this addition would still be 4 feet from the edge of the foundation to 36.4 feet.
It looks like your addition got a half foot wider between this paper and what's on the screen. This shows 15 and a half and that shows 16.
Yeah, I can't explain the discrepancy. All I can say
Okay.
is that this,
Well, it works in your
This
favor,
is
so
most
that's good.
recent.
Yeah.
It
This
gives
is
you
the
enough room.
as-built.
I mean, if you
That's
had
an
to, you could
as-built.
shrink that
He has the
text
as-built.
down to
Yeah.
4
This is
inches,
before we
but
put
you
the
don't have to.
foundation
Yeah,
in.
so as-built is,
Smaller.
yes, by a half a foot.
And that gives us 6 inches that we'd like to have
Yeah.
to grant a special permit.
Although 20 feet, I guess 20% would be 8 feet in this case.
Yes.
So,
So you're fine on the
yeah,
steps
okay,
either
so-
way. I was just looking at the
yeah,
actual building. But
I thought it was an existing foundation.
Just recently,
So we do agree, it's a special permit.
Yep.
without problem.
100%.
Are there other questions from the board? Do I have letters? From Christine Clancy, this office has reviewed the project application for 6 Monmouth Street and finds the following. The proposed addition will be near or possibly over the existing sewer service. The applicant must contract the DPW Sewer Division to coordinate any necessary actions to preserve or alter the sewer service. Erosion control devices must retain, I think, if we could get a copy of that, if, you don't have to give us one
Sure.
tonight, but
okay,
just see that Becky gets one, you could email her one or something,
absolutely.
so we have the actual. The sewer division to coordinate any necessary actions to preserve or alter the sewer service. 2, erosion control devices must retain the sediment on site. These must be installed prior to any work or demolition. 3, the street should be swept and cleaned from construction dust. That's a new one. I have a letter from the Board of Health with no comments regarding 6 Monmouth Street. I have a letter from Fire Prevention with no comments from 6 Monmouth Street. Not a surprise. And I have a letter from the police with no comments regarding 6 Monmouth Street.
Well, it makes sense, because this is only for the steps, right?
Just the landing.
Right.
Yeah, so all the other stuff they would have had comments on before.
It's a long letter, I just hate reading them. Okay, we're going to the audience, see if there's any questions or concerns regarding this application.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Jamie. I'm working on it. You didn't even say it online, even. It was good.
Well, you can't hear me anyway, so I figured if I just
Do that,
hand
yeah.
signals.
Did sound like a motion.
No, you got to do your all in
All in
favor.
favor.
All in favor?
Yeah, thank you.
Aye, that's what we're waiting on.
Don't make her.
Should I have a seat?
Yep.
Thank you.
We didn't approve, I should make a motion to approve the special permit for 6 Monmouth Street,
With the letters.
with all the letters written in and about it.
Second by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck with it.
Unanimous.
Enjoy.
We have number 10 Cross Street and 0 Hope Street, Martha McClure. This is a continued public hearing requesting a special permit under zoning bylaw section 195-82 floodplain district to redevelop an existing non-conforming single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling and any other relief deemed necessary. The site is located in the RM zoning district and identified as Assessor's Map ID Map 4, Block 10, lots 1 and 4, consisting of approximately .25 and .16 acres respectively.
Mr. Chair, even though this is a continued hearing, this is the first time we'll actually be hearing
Hearing
testimony and
testimony.
discussing it.
I just wanted to make sure, because I don't remember
Yeah.
hearing anything.
It was
Okay.
If I
open
can
to
get your name and
continue.
address for the record.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas DeShane from Finneran and Nicholson, representing Martha McClure. And thank you for your time. I do want to provide you a little more detail. We had applied for this permit some time ago, and because of that, we are also required to apply to the Conservation Commission because we're within the resource area or work within the buffer. And it was suggested to us perhaps we should go through Conservation first, allow them to do their analysis and their review and address the environmental issues, and then come to this board with that information in hand. So I respectfully asked to continue the hearing, and I appreciate the board allowing us to do that. So obviously, we have completed our work with the Conservation Commission, and so I'm here tonight. As was mentioned, my clients are proposing to redevelop the existing single-family home into a two-family home, which is allowed by right within the RM zoning district that we're located in. They're going to do the conversion by essentially building a large addition which has 2 garages, and the garage, one of the garages will connect to the existing home. So essentially, we'll have a unit on each side with the garages connected in the middle. So that's how we're proposing to do that. And again, as I said, that this is allowed by right. We had worked with the building commissioner and planning staff to work through that, but it was ultimately determined that it was allowed by right. However, because we're doing work within the floodplain overlay district, and because we were within, 100 feet of within 100 feet of a resource area, we needed permits from both the Conservation Commission and this board. With respect to the flood impacts, in meeting with the Conservation Commission, they had the project peer reviewed by CEI, and I believe there should be a copy of their report in the file. CEI concluded that with respect to floodplain impacts, we were in fact conforming, and that we did meet the standards, and that we were not reducing flood storage to the extent that we are filling any flood storage area. We have proposed to recreate that, I believe at 1.5 times, so that whatever flood capacity was on the site prior, we will now either equate or exceed that, so we're not having any impacts on the flood capacity of the property. And the other main issue reviewed by CEI is whether or not our proposal would result in the adverse impact to water flow. In other words, can water still flow through the site as it did prior to the construction? And you'll see from their report, they concluded without question that we would in fact not have any impact to the flow. So we're not affecting capacity, storage capacity, we're not affecting flow, and therefore the Conservation Commission granted us an order of conditions to do the project, determining that we would not have a negative impact on the flood zone. However, it is this board's jurisdiction to determine whether or not to provide a special permit for the work within the floodplain. So I think what we've done in terms of your special permit granting authority is shown that what we're proposing will not have a detrimental effect on the neighborhood, as evidenced by the fact that the Conservation Commission has concluded that we will have no negative impact on the floodplain and that resource area. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about that, but I would ask you to please consider granting the special permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the existing house is staying,
Yes.
and so it's just going to be 2 garages in the middle?
And then the next unit,
Gotcha.
yep. And they'll all be one structure.
There's an existing garage that's going away.
If I could, I would double check.
I don't believe so.
Like there's something that says garage on the top left.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, there's a standalone that's being raised.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be removed. And that was a non-conforming structure too, as you can see. For those of you that are not familiar with Hope Street, I believe directly across is a condominium development, so it's a multifamily zone and a multifamily district.
Any further questions from the board?
I am not familiar with Hope Street, so I'm just trying to pull it up on the,
Oh,
yes, so I
yeah.
can kind of give a overview here before, so just bear with me a little bit.
I can pull that up too. Let me pull up the locus so you can see it.
Try and review the documents before you come here.
I guess I may have misspoke. It's Cross Street where we have the multifamily, very large multifamily developments. And if you'd like, I do have a copy of the assessor's map I could share with you, which shows all of the adjacent multifamily structures.
An opportunity to pull it up. Do you want to see his map?
I'm putting it up on the screen too. I've got to pull it up ahead of time. There we go.
There's Cross Street.
Yep.
There's ours.
Thank you.
Rather large condominiums. So our 2-unit will sort of pale in comparison to some of those. And again, we're meeting all of the requirements in terms of dimensional requirements and sizes with the construction.
And nothing behind.
Cross Street, there are condominiums, but on Hope Street, there's single-family houses?
I'm based just on the the relative size of the buildings, given that our initial building is a single family. I think that's a great assumption. I just can't guarantee that. However, this entire zone is in the in the town's RM zone, so it's residential multifamily, which is what allows those multi-unit condos and our two-family.
Well, this is own multifamily, that's really what we have anyways, regardless of the neighbors, though I think it's important to know it.
Is that brick house?
Kingsborough Road. Oops.
Right,
And then
and
Cross Street comes off
cuts
of
over to
that, and
Dunstable.
Hope's right there. And then Mission Road runs on this end. Which is off of Dunstable.
It's right into that.
This, multifamily, RM actually. Doesn't have to be multifamily.
They're
just-
all RM, yes.
Okay. So the houses on Hope Street are RM, even though they appear to be from this single family, they are zoned RM.
Oh, he's got this right off at Ting.
On the opposite side of the street as well. I just checked those three.
Is that cross?
What cross these here apartments?
That's,
Those are the
RM,
condos, and then behind,
which
that's
is also,
multi
I
as
don't know, I
well.
think that's Mission, the address
This
of
one
that
is
is
actually Mission,
yeah.
yep.
But it's surrounded by RM.
Mhm.
Further questions?
I'm just waiting for the letters, see what they say.
Let's do that now then.
Here you go.
Do the letters say?
We have a letter from the Department of Public Works. As a result of review, the office of the following comments regarding, so he's just referring to it as 10 Cross Street and 0 Hope, 10 Cross Street. The proposed addition will be near or possibly over the existing sewer service. The applicant owner must contact the DPW Sewer Division to coordinate any necessary actions to preserve or alter sewer service. 2, the connection of the proposed new unit is not approved onto the town Chelmsford sewer system. There is only one sewer stub on this property. Do you have a solution for that?
I believe so. The permit we're here before you for is only relating to floodplain. The construction of the building, the conversion to a two-family, that's all by right. We don't need a special permit, we don't need a variance, we don't need anything. The only trip-up for us was that, again, in order to do the addition, we're gonna have to just, disturb a corner of the floodplain. So we had to show this board and the Conservation Commission that we would not be negatively impacting the flood capacity or the flood flow. I do know that my client and his engineers have been working with the town. Now, whether they're proposing a standalone septic for the other unit or have worked something out, I honestly can't say, although I do recall my client saying that they were taking care of that and they had a solution. But again, guys, I'm only here before you tonight for a determination of whether, in fact, we're meeting the floodplain performance standards. It has nothing to do with whether converting to a two-family or building in a multifamily zone requires any kind of permits. Building inspectors determine that the way this is being done is, in fact, allowed by right through your zoning bylaws. So I'm not asking for a variance or any kind of waiver from that. just a question of whether or not we're meeting your performance standards under the floodplain overlay. And again, I believe your Conservation Commission has done a great job of ensuring we are doing that.
I am understanding what you're saying. It just, the letters are here that we read them and they become part of the
Oh,
record.
I understand.
Their content is
Sure.
important, that we understand that if approving this, there are solutions. I don't know, Jose, do you have any information on this? I mean, us approving it would not really
No, because
predicate
he's
on
coming on the
this.
182, I'm sorry, 18932, which is just for the floodplain approval, special permit,
19582.
19582.
So that whether or not they can tie into the sewer is really not our
Yeah,
concern.
at this time, it's just a special permit for the floodplain approval.
They will still have to go through the process.
Yes, sir.
Regardless of our approval or not. Clarification is required. Will the proposed garages be attached to the existing unit? I think we
Yes.
determined yes.
Yes, we
10
respond.
Cross Street's porch, I think we determined yes.
Mm-hmm.
The cover letter indicates plans for this property to go from a single-family residence to a two-family residence. It's not a question, it just states that. No new cuts into the pavement of Cross Street are permitted until the end of 2026 because the road was just paved in 2021. This does not include the driveway. All proposed utility connections should utilize the existing utility stubs to avoid going into the road. Erosion control devices must retain the sediment on site. These must be installed prior to any work or demolition. Sheila Joyce, project engineer.
And just for clarification, the legal notice was posted, it's 10 Cross Street and 0 Hope, the next lot over, correct, Doug?
Is
Is
this
this
our
here?
only letter? Is that only letter?
Sorry. Cecil just mentioned that.
So I have a letter from Susan L. Taylor, Assistant to the Assessor. Hi Becky, no comments other than the E911 application, if approved for an additional number, which Danny in the fire department usually adds to her letter. But I don't think we have a letter
Yeah,
from
I
her. He
actually-
may be away, she may be away.
She did not receive a letter from her on this one. Then we did receive comments from Conservation, but this was prior to the applicant filing with them. And that,
So now that they've gone through that, I don't think
yes,
this needs to
and
be
the
repeated.
order of conditions has been issued, which I forwarded on to all of you on Monday.
Yep.
Monday, Tuesday.
Well, that is the letters that I have. Any further questions from the board at this time?
And Brian. This is the section that we're referring to.
It's interesting that
So there are 5 tenants. The applicant has referred the request to the planning board, the town engineer, the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission for review and recommendation, as provided in Mass General Law, Chapter 40A. B, the land is shown to be neither subject to flooding nor unsuitable for proposed use because of hydraulic and/or topographical conditions. C, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. D, the proposed use will comply in all respects with the provisions of the underlying district, which being an RM does. E, any loss of floodplain or floodway shall be compensated for at a similar elevation within the same local watershed. And it was clearly noted, there was, I think it was 103 cubic feet that was to be excavated and floodplain created.
I think there's 700 total, Brian.
There's 700 total?
cubic feet.
Yep.
Was that the Caltech chambers as well?
No, it doesn't. There's 600 in one area and 100
Oh, I didn't find
on
this.
the opposite
Let's
side.
I have extra hard copies if you'd like to see the hard copies of the plan.
please.
So it's
know
100
my-
cubic feet.
Yeah, and then there's
Don't mind going
600.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
You
yeah,
got it?
I do know.
Why are you torturing me?
So a total of 700 cubic feet. at varying elevations. Oh, my God.
Yep.
Oh, there it is.
Gonna open this up to public comment at this point. Anyone like to speak on this matter, please approach the podium. Seeing none? Julie,
I'd
wanna
like
close
to
the
make a
public
motion to
hearing?
close the public hearing for 10 Cross and 0 Hope Street.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Because everything has been satisfied in section 195-82, special permits, I make a motion to approve the special permit for 10 Cross Street and 0 Hope Street with the consideration of all the letters written into our meeting.
And the Conservation Commission's
And the
order of
con- yeah.
conditions.
And, all right,
Yes.
that's the most important,
Mhm.
plus the conservation.
I second.
Second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous?
Thank you very much for your time, and consideration. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you,
Thank
too,
you.
delegates.
Are we doing 40?
There's no applicant at this point.
I'll just check my email one more time. Hold on.
Can we do it without them here? Not that one.
No, I think there's concern about documents to be provided anyway, so we would certainly need.
I haven't received any notices,
Situation.
Yeah.
so,
That's what I thought.
Can you continue on their behalf without them requesting continuation? Like, is there any-
we have done that before.
I think we continue. I did text and see what would happen, but
Okay.
have not heard.
Do you want to?
So we can continue, I think.
Move on the agenda and then come back to that?
Yeah, we'll do that. So could I get a
Change the
motion
order.
to continue
The next item.
till another point in the meeting,
I make a motion to continue,
a later point in the meeting? Set
we'll
a time, 'cause-
move 43 Bartlett Street to the later in the agenda.
And there's really the minutes, so it's not, and I don't want to say 8 o'clock, we'll just sit here and
No.
We'll
wait.
just move it to later point in the agenda.
I'll second it.
Can you just say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Make a motion to move
Second by
43.
Peter, all in favor?
Aye.
So we have minutes. I think the business discussion was very much predicated by, who am I thinking of?
Glenn.
Glenn.
When we left off last month, the board had asked me to update the LAA forms in general to include that the applicants list who the occupants will be, so I've gone ahead and done that. Let me pull that up on the screen as well. So there was that portion, just updating the forms without the actual bylaw discussion. Where is it?
That was a little bit.
So what I did was I just highlighted in red what the changes were to the existing form. I added in the LA occupant names as you requested, a line for the relation to the applicants underneath. Up top, I just noticed that to add in other, just in case, because currently we just had applicant as owner, buyer, and I put other, because we've had the case where it's the trustee filing, and that way they can just check that off. And then down below, I just edited this portion here, because all of our applications say recorded deeds, but really we're looking for the property deed to reference in our permits, because at the Registry of Deeds, they use that, what I type in, to then record any permits when someone goes to do so. So I just went ahead and edited that part there for clarity's sake.
Should we also have in there because I think we decided that whether it was the main house or the LLA, either party could occupy that.
Right.
So
Right.
should we also have the primary resident name, and I guess it'd be duplicitous, but relationship to the applicant?
Right, so usually the
Okay, so the
owner,
applicant
the
will
owner is
apply.
applying. Usually it's the owner is the applicant. In some cases, it's not, but they would have to list if they're not and why. But in this case, it's owner occupied. For an LAA, it's owner occupied.
It has to be owner
yeah.
occupied.
We're listing down who the
But they don't
people are
have
coming
to
in.
occupy the home. They could occupy the LLA.
Correct.
LAA.
So the bylaw states that it can be either. So what I did was on the land use restriction form, which was the second link.
Well, do we want to modify, if it's, we've had situations where the owner, the main occupant, moved into the LAA, and the family took over the main home. I think maybe we could modify it so that it distinguishes main home occupancy, LLA occupancy. I think is that what you're wanting
Yeah,
to
that's what I
distinguish?
think would be.
On the application itself?
They can do that, we decided. That was not a problem. But
As
we
long as
still
they were
need to
living on the property.
Right,
No,
the
or
bylaw
have a-
allows
right.
that.
Have a document that states this is how it's going to go.
Does it
So-
matter?
Huh?
I said, does that matter? Because I mean, what if they wanted to switch?
Switch after, yeah.
Like, do we need to be updated that I was in the big house, now I'm moving into the smaller house because I
think-
fell and hurt my back
think
and I got better
As
and I wanted
as
to move.
long as they are the same party,
Yeah.
I guess it wouldn't matter. So if you don't
We
want to
just
worry.
need to make sure, I think that, because it's, up there it just says buyer or owner. It doesn't say who's who's occupying the main and occupying the LLA.
They usually
The
state that in the
relationship.
narrative, which
Okay.
we also request everyone to, because this wasn't on the application before. We weren't asking for names on the application because the bylaw doesn't mandate that. So
Okay.
that, when the form was initially created years ago, that was not on there. So I've gone ahead and added that part in. We can clarify that a little bit more. But what we, in our previous discussions, that came up in terms of does it matter who lives in which side?
Yeah.
The bylaw does allow the owner to live in the principal dwelling unit or the limited accessory apartment. So where there was a discrepancy was the land use restriction form that the applicant the owner needs to sign and have notarized. So that's this part here. So here's the form on the screen. This is the attachment to their application packet. They get this
And how often
recorded as
does
well.
this get renewed?
It does not. Nothing in the bylaw asks for any of these things to be renewed. It
Well, I
leaves
thought
it
we had a
open-ended.
yearly or a
No,
bi-yearly.
nothing in the
That's what we
bylaw
were talking about,
requires.
initiating.
Right.
We were talking
You
about
talked
initiating
it,
that.
but nothing in the
I
bylaw
was under the
requires
impression we
that.
had something like
No.
that. I was pretty sure.
That's what we talked about last time.
We talked about starting something like that, but we
Yeah.
don't have anything like that.
And
And then what would that be, in the zoning, so it would have to be town meeting?
Yeah, he will be creating an inspection process. Like other jurisdiction, at the last hearing, we mentioned one of the jurisdiction who does it
Westford does it.
yearly, I believe.
Mhm.
I think every year they have to allow entry.
I think
They have
we
to
should look at a
reapply. They have
notarized
to
statement
reapply.
saying, this is who's living in the home. Because, 1 or 2 years, but 10 years later,
Yeah.
it's very unlikely the same situation would apply,
Because I think the only thing they have to do is if they sell the home or buy it, right? That's the only time they have to re-verify.
So
is
the only
owner.
thing currently written into the bylaw is that once the property is sold, the new owner has 30 days to contact the board and to ask to renew that special permit with their name on it in order to enable to keep
Start
the
the
LA,
process
or else
over
it's
again,
null
even
and
though it's
void.
constructed.
Yes, even though it's constructed. Otherwise, it's null and void, as the bylaw's written. So, yeah, so in terms of setting something up where there's regular inspections or registration, not really certain that would fall under your purview, to be honest. That's something you
And that
may
would
want
be
to
a
look
zoning
into. Really,
change as
that
well.
becomes
I think we discussed that last time.
zoning change. What
think
do
we-
you
How
mean
would
by
you
that?
see that working for the best if we were
I
to
think
require
the way
something
it
to
is now,
document?
yeah, the way it is now, we are on the staff, is something else we have to now worry, something else we have to follow through. I think some people will probably remember to, I mean, depending on how we do it, the applicant in other jurisdiction, they have to apply for a reinspection every year. I don't know if that will be the case here, but
Right.
I think,
Anything we do would have to go through town meeting.
right,
But
right.
even if we wanted to request, I'm less concerned about an inspection as much as just someone saying with a notary public, this is who's living in the home.
Yeah,
But again, it would still be town meeting to
Yeah,
make
right.
any change.
To the bylaw.
What does a notary cost? Like,
You get one
Banks are
done in
free.
town, I think it's
Banks are
free.
free.
okay.
So not the expense issue, it's just,
No, I'm just thinking about my fee-based solution that would fund the whole monitoring of the process. So if we said, oh, you know, it's $9.99 every time, or $10 when you have to do this thing every year, then you have a
it
fund to
pays
pay
for
for
itself
someone
to
to go
do-
out and knock on these doors, you know.
I got you, Jose.
I think he's laughing at $9.99, but I'm not sure.
Might need a little more than that, but then you start
Jose,
getting.
how many
You seen a building
LLAs
permit
do
for
we
it,
have?
baby?
Oh, we get, I think since I've been here, I mean, I think I have issued permits for maybe more than 20 since I've been here.
20.
So I think prior to me, maybe there are more.
I'm sorry, what was the question? For
How
by
many?
rights?
How many
How many
LLAs do we
LLAs
have in town? But, I mean,
LA.
we don't keep track of how many, but I do kind of, once in a while think about the ones that come in, people that come in by, sometime by right or,
Well, as I stated before, we as a board report, we participate with a summary of all the special permits and variances and appeals for the town report. So every year it gets reported how many LAAs. We actually have a line for that. I don't know off the top of my head
Would it
right
be
now. I
possible to
think we,
get that for the next meeting, just to know
yeah.
the
to trace it back.
approximate number of LAAs?
How many years
that
back do you
are-
want me to go on? To
I
look
think
back
it's
on?
been.
I mean, it's been
I
in
was
the
on board
record for
when
like
it
15
started, so
years,
it's
yeah.
No more than 15
You want a
years
full
ago.
list?
So the town report is only for that year, or it's not a summary as the?
Right.
No,
the
it's
report
just
is
for,
that
it's
year.
just
year,
for how
okay.
many new ones we have
Just
issued.
new- Okay.
And just a number, it just quantifies how many special permits or variances or
Okay.
other things modifications
it's
we've
100.
issued. It doesn't list down the addresses.
10
Yeah.
years, 10 a year, in that
I'm just
range.
wondering if, the database, we could run a query on it, on the database and search by limited accessory apartment and run a report instead of having to dig through multiple reports to add. Because it's in a database, right?
Frank might even know, he's unreal with this stuff.
I feel like it's gotta be more than 100. I feel like we've done more than 10
Actually, maybe
this
not.
year.
Oh, definitely. We've had multiple.
Yeah, I feel like I've
In
seen
meetings.
like
It's still
20
considered
this
single
year or something like
family, so they can't
Only having
quarry
12
for that.
meetings a year, we're only having 11 meetings a year.
So
Right.
I can
Yeah,
get a
There's been
list.
multiple.
I'm just, that's a
Yeah.
round number, maybe it's 15 a year. And I think 10 years is pretty likely that it's been on the books, but that's again, just a guess. Time goes
And no
fast.
one
had like
really
3.
knows if they've been occupied that way since
And now
inception.
are they
We
vacant?
had over
Yeah,
a
so
dozen
it's
last
a
year.
really big
I think we're at about
question.
8 this year,
Only 8 this year?
around that.
There must have been some meetings with none, because I remember like some meetings that like, it's like the first thing, the second thing, and the fourth
We
thing.
had 4
It's
in
like-
one meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely been a few. And I don't think they're gonna slow down. I think that's, generational living is here to stay.
Only increase.
We close this
Okay.
up and go to minutes.
Well, can I just clarify then? You do want me to change
Well,
the
I
form
think
as
your
it
point
is
is
to be
very
more?
valid, that the owner has to be on it, so that's determined.
Yep.
I guess I feel like we don't need to know who's where. We just don't need to know, as long as we have both names
And the relation
and the
connection.
relationship.
If we
Okay.
were inspecting, if we got to that point, the person would go up and they'd have both sets of names, so whichever door you
Right.
knock on first, there should be one of those.
We could say, what would we call it, those second family occupants,
Right.
or how do you call it?
We
though?
get the information we need, and we really don't need to be involved in who's where. It
Most of
doesn't-
them too come in and they tell us, well, who is going to be where.
For the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah,
So we'd have the owner and the
right,
LLA. and if they-
right.
But having it written down too, that we can refer to in the future, like, we had that
Again,
one
it's always in the
family
narrative.
said it was gonna be a older son, and then I saw that address on Facebook not more than 3 months later,
But that was
advertising for
different,
a
because they
rent.
didn't come in to apply for one. That was under an enforcement.
Oh, was that?
That was a completely different situation.
I distinctly remember that being.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
that,
right,
that
'cause
one's
they
an
had a
anomaly.
Random kitchen.
That one's an anomaly,
Okay.
for sure. Yep.
Oh, they went to rent that? Later on.
So,
They went to rent that property later on?
Yep, they posted it for rent.
Jeez.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and finalize those two forms.
Yep. And Glenn may have other thoughts when he returns, and we'll just keep plugging away until we figure out whether we're gonna go to the
Discussion.
town meeting with some changes, or,
We could also look how Westford does their tracking, maybe adopt their system. Or no?
I personally think that Westford is created something that is gonna be very difficult to manage
okay.
down the road.
Okay.
Whatever the board decides is best to approach town meeting with is fine, but the idea of any property in town becoming a two-family is, to me, sewer aside, it's just crazy.
No, I'm not saying any property, but the way they have their families register every year, and how they manage inspection and keeping up to date
think
with
they
it.
can-
I think it's,
Rent, right?
I think it's Birica who does a yearly.
Is it Bill Ricca?
Yeah, it was
It's
Bill Ricker.
it's
Oh, is it
Birica.
Bill
I
Ricca?
think it was.
Birica does a
Yeah.
yearly
I'm not-
reinspection.
And
Yeah,
is
so I'm
that
not talking
required
about
within
any
the
family.
bylaw, or is that just something their building department does on their own? Do you know?
In Birica, I can't tell
Glenn
you.
provided that, and I don't remember. It was,
I
That's what I'm
don't think
saying.
you can just decide to do that. I think it
No,
has
yeah.
to be part of
I would imagine so.
Mass General Law or the
I don't know
zoning
what's
to
going
do
in. Yeah.
anything.
But I think, I'm wondering about cost, manpower, and how that would be done, investigating another town who already does it and seeing what their
Right.
system is to maybe adopt, if it works well. In that part, I wasn't talking about like open willy-nilly, everyone can do an LLA. No, I'm not, that's not LAA. That was not my intent. It was, because I knew he specifically, I thought it was Westford, maybe Bill Ricca, that they do have an annual registration and have to validate the fact of relations to the occupants.
I mean, do you think that's important to you and your,
Again, I think it's going to be a matter of resources and
well, I think to Steve's point, if we were gonna do that, we'd have to find a way to help fund that in some
Right.
fashion.
it's got to
Whether
be,
there's a yearly fee of,
we have to implement a yearly fee.
$9.99. But, you
The
know,
thing
to
too,
send
if-
to, the paperwork can get mailed out, if it's responded to, that could be enough. If it isn't, then, you know, that would be elevated to the next level.
Technology too.
Just
make it
food
all
for
portal.
thought, based on some of the other conversations around zoning changes that have occurred in recent times. Usually when something's being proposed on the floor, or even to get a recommendation from planning board, they want to know, what's the justification for changing it? Why change it and go to that degree?
keep with
Do
it.
we have a problem in town? So that's something, do we have enough of a problem to warrant such a change?
I think the
Because
biggest.
this is a big enforcement piece. It requires staffing.
Yeah.
It requires managing inspections, so that it's
Yeah. And
a whole
and on that-
undertaking. So do we have enough of a problem in town?
How do you
With-
define the problem? We don't know these answers.
How many
but-
complaints are we actually getting?
So what is it that we're trying to solve?
Right, what's the problem you're trying
What
to
is it that we're
solve?
trying
And how
to solve?
many?
I think the idea that someone
Homes do we
would rent it
have?
out in the future is one of the major concerns, but
I mean,
But-
and the
but-
other one
but-
that you.
But we already, I think we already clarified that people can rent them.
Two-family, yes.
to family.
Or a
It's not
caretaker.
a specific, if it's to families. And that's
It is
on,
actually.
right on,
If you have an LLA, you can,
Actually, item 195-61, number 5.
You can't rent it. No. It's 6.5? No.
Under,
195-61,
section E,
section C5.
That shall not be.
right,
rented.
shall not be rented by persons who do not qualify as extended family members.
Right.
And it
but then-
repeats it
But
again
then
in
we
the
have
next
to go
section.
back and see what is the definition of extended family member. Because now you will engage in constitutional matters by asking somebody in one of them units. Now you become an investigator of personal,
like an adoptive
Yeah.
child or.
Well,
Are
it
you
actually
co-
states that in the bylaw. Extended family is blood-related by adoption, and in this case for the LAA, it does state you can have a caretaker, because some
Right, I do
folks
remember
require
that.
caretaker. Hold on a second, where was it? So it does state that. Now, I guess the real matter is, how do you enforce that?
that's what I'm saying. Now,
Yeah, right
I
here.
think I explained at the last hearing, I talked about one that I received a complaint and I went and knocked on the door and
Utilize you, and that's it.
yeah, I mean, how am I going to prove that person on the apartment is
You
Who
can.
they
You can't-
purport to
can't.
be, yeah.
I mean, to
You
me, the
can't.
problem we're trying to solve is we have quote-unquote rules that are not enforceable as they are currently
Written.
written. Like,
I
it's-
agree.
So that's the problem we're solving. Either we take the rules away, or we gain the capability to enforce the rules that we have. Because right now, if it's, all I have to do is not open the door or not talk to you when you come to ask me questions, and you can do nothing, then.
Or say, he's my brother-in-law.
brother.
How do you prove it? Because it's marriage.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't, how do you prove
It's
it?
going to be hard.
He's my brother-in-law. Prove it otherwise.
Jose, besides that anomaly that we reference, have you had a lot of complaints in the last couple of years in terms of
His name's not on it.
people calling to complain that their neighbors are using it inappropriately?
I get a call here.
Because we tend to reference this anomaly quite a bit, and I'm not saying it's not a problem, it is, but how often is this occurring townwide?
I get a call here and there once in a while. For example, in the last maybe month and a half, I got one on North Road and one on River Neck Road, which at that time, now you drive by, now you start, doing the little investigation, and then you end up sending a letter. And by the time the person responds to the letter, maybe the occupants are out, they clean up, everybody's, So I think either way, it's going to be. I like the idea that Vereka has. Every year people have to apply for every inspection.
Maybe more as of a deterrence.
I think
Maybe more
yes.
You
deterrent.
could do it on a database, just online, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't really, if it was, once it was, the data was built in there,
It
someone
might-
would
it
have to
might
fill that
cut
application
down
and.
the abuse more so, but more of as a deterrence, maybe.
Yeah, because we have that provision here, which is 195-6161, E3, and that one is very similar to what we want to do, which states that upon of the sale of the property, the owner shall be required to file a new application with the building inspector for the
Yeah.
purpose of maintaining the LLA. So that one is pretty similar to what Vereka is doing, but it's only set at the sale of, well, that could be revised on a yearly basis or every 2 years or however we think is
But again, to do that, we'd have to go through town meeting.
right. So you have to take that language and maybe revise it and
Maybe, and I'm sure it won't be in December, this is December, in January, we can get Paul Haverty to join us with Glenn, and try to figure out a strategy. And again, the question is it worth it? If you've had 1 or 1.5 in the last few months, I mean, you're gonna investigate those as that phone call or that, that observation comes in anyways.
With the language, with the piece of information that Becky just provided, that she has a list of the already pre-existing LLAs, I mean, maybe a system can be created that we start sending them letters so that,
Just to clarify, I have a quantitative amount each year. I go back and I count how many we've issued. We don't have a comprehensive database for the past 15 years. We don't.
but at least.
That would need to be created.
Yeah, no, but at least we can start with the list you have and start chipping away little by little, and anybody moving forward, then you hold them to that. If you revise if the provision is revised, then we can, moving forward, we can hold people to every year
The standard
to
anyways.
stay, right, document as much as we can.
If nobody's looking, you speed. If there's a cop there, you slow down.
Right.
True.
Put a sign on a pole that flashes and tells you to slow down.
That works with me. It does. Yeah, I slow down when I see those things.
Deterrence.
Deterrent, right?
It works.
Speed bump.
Right? Just make it so it's, if you just don't do anything and it stays there, there's no, but if there's something you gotta do that says, you gotta state that this is what's going on. No integrity out there. All right.
Do you want me to place this item on next month's agenda, and do you want town council at the meeting for next month?
I think we could put it on the agenda, and hopefully Glenn, who's definitely got a great deal of information on this, could work on a strategy, and then we could talk, because he's talked to other towns. There may be a good system out there we haven't seen, and then we can approach Paul. Spring town meeting would be the next, and that would be a trick even now, but we can approach it. I don't know if we need a motion, but I guess we'll close discussion on this.
Discussion.
Make a motion to close the discussion.
Close or continue? You don't have to on discussion
Continue.
items.
Yeah.
Or do we continue?
I don't think we
Don't
need to
have
do
to on
anything.
discussion
we
Stop
don't?
talking
No,
about it.
this is an
I thought you
open
said make a
discussion.
I wasn't sure how,
Oh,
but I
okay.
think that's the right way. And that leaves us with minutes to approve, 9/7, 10/5,
Yes.
and 11/2.
Since we don't have our English major anymore.
I miss her. She was great.
She was amazing.
Next meeting is
I did my
January
best Nancy
4th.
impression. I emailed
He did email me, so you did do a good Nancy impression, thank you. And I appreciate it.
Okay. You want to approve them en masse, or do you need to go through each one?
I'll just point out that I noticed an error myself. On October, I inadvertently listed Glenn as present and not present. So he was actually present in October, so I'm going
Move
to,
him from
yeah.
not present.
Scratch
paying
that.
attention.
I was not present for September.
Correct.
It would not be.
I was out in October.
And I was out in November.
Okay, so the only person not here for September was Jamie, so everyone else can vote on it. If you
So
all
we do-
feel
we'll do
comfortable.
them individually.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the minutes for September.
Second
Second.
by Charlie. All in favor?
All right.
That's four.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for October.
Second. Oh,
Second by Peter. All in favor?
aye.
I didn't vote, though.
Right, yep.
And November.
In November,
Motion to approve the minutes for November.
Second.
Charlie was not
Second by
here.
Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
That's it.
Go minutes.
Okay, so,
What are we going to do about
See you
Bartlett?
guys next year.
no.
Bartlett.
No,
we have to go
Bartlett.
back to Bartlett.
43
Bartlett.
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 Chairman.
Oh, we have to continue, yeah. Let me just make sure.
I know you're not ready, sir.
Buddy.
Starts pretty soon.
And
I'm
then-
Yeah.
tired of checking.
The game. Patriots.
So I have no,
Yeah, it's unusual. I didn't receive a phone call or an email, which
Sorry, I have better things to do than football.
that's an idea.
Hockey.
is unusual.
Basketball.
Yeah.
So do the Patriots. They have better.
So I don't know if he's out of town, because I did not receive.
That's gonna be the plan, yes. till January 4th. I need a motion to do that.
I make a motion to continue 43 Bartlett till January 4th.
Second by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a
a
good
motion
holiday
to
season,
adjourn.
everyone.
Motion to adjourn by Jamie.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.